It's time for a new episode of Faith in Fairways with the founder, Brad Thorberg, who after more than 16,000 lessons taught to over 2,000 golfers, has discovered the most forgotten and overlooked part of your golf game that is keeping you from playing your most consistent and confident golf ever. Now, here is your host, Brad Thorberg.
What is up, Birdie crew members and fellow golfers? Brad here, your host of another episode of Faith in Fairways. Today, why your golf ball keeps going where you don't want it to go. How does that keep happening? We've all been there. You're sitting there, you have a good round going, and you get to, I think of a country club I used to belong to, Ptarmigan Country Club up in northern Colorado, and you'd have a good round going, and I would get to, we always called it Ptarmigeddon, but it'd be a par 5, par 3, par 5, and hole 14 of Ptarmigeddon there. I'd get to that tee box, and it was a tough tee shot where you didn't have to hit driver. Basically, it was a landing area, and you had water all along the left-hand side, the whole length of your tee shot, and along the right side, the whole length of the entire hole is out of bounds. And you could be aggressive, and you could hit driver out there towards the end, right up to the edge of the water. And if you kept it under about 320 yards, you'd be right there, and you could have a 6 or 5 iron to the green over 2 things of water. Or you could just simply play a 5 iron, 8 iron pitching wedge, going from one landing area to the other. And I would often play the aggressive because I'd be playing good, but I'd find myself where it would sneak into my mind where I'd get there and I'm have a good round going because the front 9 there is pretty easy. So typically by that point, I'm close to even par or 1 under or just 1 over on a reachable par 5. And I'd grab the driver, and I should be just thinking, all right, I want this thing to start, here over this divot or blade of grass, take off to the left corner of the fairway and just cut gently back into the middle. I'd always take that line because then if I pulled it, I get a drop up there with the water hazard versus going out of bounds. Tee box tended to be closer to out of bounds than the water on the left, so it just made sense to tee up on the right side of the tee box, aim down the left, cut the ball back in, and if I hit it straight, I took a line that would keep me in play. And if I simply was confident and kept that thought of, starts here, ends here, worst case scenario, I pull it a little bit and it doesn't quite reach the water if I take a good line. But as we've all been there, it'll creep into my mind of, oh gosh, don't go out of bounds right before you swing it. And why does that happen? It's because it's what your mind is focused on. It's hand-eye coordination. It's seeing a ball come, throwing your hand up and catching it. So when you look that way, when you see the out of bounds, when you see the houses and the windows, or when you peek left and go, man, don't pull this left like I did 3 days ago or like I did 4 holes ago, and you think that right before you pull the trigger, that is what your mind is focused on. Even though you're telling yourself not to, it's what you're thinking about. So what are you going to naturally do? Your body's going to naturally hit the ball in that direction. It's called hand-eye coordination. It's an amazing thing. Think of it this way. Think of how many times you step up and just see the ball on the putting green, you just slap at it and it goes in versus when you overthink it. You're just reacting. Well, your mind is reacting. When you get on that tee box and you start saying, don't go over there, when that thought creeps into your mind right before you swing, here's what happens. You start focusing on it. So your mind's eyes is seeing that problem area, that out of bounds, that water, if we're looking at hole 14 there, it sees that in the brain, and then you tense up. You're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to hit it directly there, or you're going to overcorrect aggressively and hit this thing a long ways in the opposite direction. So if you're playing a little fade, or maybe some of you are playing a slice still, which we can totally help fix that. But if you're still playing a slice, and you're aiming, down the left side towards the water, trying to protect from going out of bounds right, and then the last thing you think is, gosh, please don't go out of bounds again. What's going to happen is you're going to get quick, you're going to speed up your tempo, which is going to throw your timing off, and you're going to slap that face shut, and you're going to tend to pull that thing so far left that you're out in the middle of the pond. Or you're going to tense up so bad that you just hang the face open and slice it even worse. But that's typically what happens, and it's because you let the thought of something bad happening into your brain, you focused on it, and the ball went there. Or I went in the complete opposite direction, which in this scenario is not a good thing. But that's what happens because that was the last thing you thought of. So you got to build a consistent routine that breeds confidence that you know you're going to start a ball here and it's going to end there. And like last week, we talked about practice. You have to have a plan when you practice. And we talked about how 70% of the time on your full swing should be spent on hitting golf shots and working on this very routine. So what should this routine look like? Well, this routine starts by having a plan, because without a plan, we're going to lack confidence. If you don't have a game plan, if you don't go into the football game or the basketball game or the soccer match, if you don't go into a game, if the coach just says, hey, go out and get them, no plan of who's playing who's covering who, what we're going to do, what plays we're going to start with. If there's no plan, it is utter chaos, and there's no confidence, zero confidence. And most of you don't have a plan when you get on the tee box. Most of you are playing amateur golf where you get to the tee box and you're looking at the hole from the tee box to the green, where better players look at the hole backwards. They look at the hole from the green to the tee box. So you get up there and you just simply grab your driver because it's a long hole and you're trying to protect from a slice and you're thinking, man, I can't go left or right here. And you're just trying to force a good swing and you're just so tense, staring down the water and the out of bounds, that there's no chance of hitting a good shot, like 1 in 10. More than likely, we're ending up with penalty strokes. So we got to start building a plan of attack the moment we get on a tee box. And that plan, you have to speak it through your mind to create a sense of calmness and relaxation. So like when I get to that tee box on 14, I get up there, and if I'm playing the back tees, I know, it's a driver, and I know what shot shape I'm going to play. I go, hey, my miss here is I cut, and it ends up on, cuts a little too much, and I end up on the right side of the fairway, a little controlled cut. I'm right down the heart of it, stopping just before the water. Worst case is I tug it a little bit. So I'm going to take a line. So I'm picking out right side of the tee box, aiming down the left-hand side like I talked about, because that's part of my plan. I'm talking this through in my mind because it helps relax me, because it says, hey, my miss left is going to be okay. And if I overcut it, I'm going to be okay. I'm making the fairway wider by playing these angles, and it helps me relax because I have this plan.
Even though Brad has cracked the code to consistently breaking 90, there are still 3 major mistakes he's found from working with over 2,000 clients that will sabotage your round before you get to the first tee. Head to www.mygolfcode.com now to receive your free guide, where he outlines all 3 faults and provides you with some easy action steps to start playing more consistent golf today.
I'm sitting there on the tee box with a plan saying, hey, my miss is here. This gives me the best chance to keep it on the golf course and out of harm's way. Then I set up and I pick my start point and my end point. I go, all right, I'm starting over this old divot. It's going to take off to the corner towards that red stake in the left corner of the fairway, and it's going to cut back ever so softly to the middle towards that other red stake. Starts here, ends there. Big, deep breath, exhale, 80% effort, middle of the face. That's what I say every time. And I just swing before I can think of anything bad. But when you talk that through, when you talk the plan out in your head of where you want this ball to start, where you want it to end, why you're aiming where you're aiming, and you're telling yourself that gives you the best chance to keep it in play. That gives you the best chance to not make double or triple bogey. That gives you the best chance to keep it on the golf course. When you talk that through and you come up with the plan, you're more relaxed, you're more confident because you know what you're doing. You know where your misses might go, and you're protecting against them. You're not sitting on the tee box going, well, let me try this. Sure, it might be a great article in a magazine. It might be awesome. It might have worked 3 weeks ago. It might have worked 2 hours ago on the driving range. But standing on that tee box saying, let me try this, mechanical thought in your swing is creating no sense of confidence because you have no idea what's about to happen. You don't have a clue what's about to happen. So now you're less confident, plus you're thinking about how to swing, so you're not even focused on the target. You haven't created a plan of where you want the ball to start or end or what side of the hole you're protecting from. You're not creating any of that. You're just thinking of your swing saying, please, dear Lord, please don't go out of bounds right or in the water left. Let me try this. Let me try to, strengthen my grip, or let me try to turn a little bit more. And it's just going to end up being a disaster because you're thinking of how and not where, and you have no confidence because you have no plan for the hole. So why does your golf ball keep going where you don't want it to go? Number 1, you have no confidence because you have no plan. Number 2, you have a horrible pre-shot routine because your pre-shot routine is all about just grabbing the longest club in the bag and trying to think of something in your swing to make it go straight on that one particular swing. which is highly unlikely. So what should this pre-shot routine be? And I've shared with you what mine is, but it should be solely focused on, all right, looking at the hole backwards or looking at where this ball needs to land. So I always look at the green backwards, on a par 5, like this particular hole. Can I get there in 2? What are the chances with my ability level? If they're not great. So for a lot of you, if you're just trying to break 90 consistently be in the mid 80s, hitting driver's a low percentage shot on this particular hole. You're much better off saying, all right, if I look at the hole backwards and I realize it's 520 yards and there's 2 landing areas, then I'm just going to simply go, all right, if I go 5 iron off the tee, that gives me an 8 iron across the water, which then gives me a pitching wedge to the green over the creek. And you're positioning yourself with shorter clubs over the biggest amounts of trouble. So now you're looking at the hole backwards going, all right, I want to have a pitching wedge over the creek to the green, but that gives me what from here to here? So that would give me an 8 iron from that pitching wedge distance back across the pond. So I need to hit at least a 5 iron or a 4 iron, but I don't need to hit anything more than that. So now you could grab a 4 or 5 iron and say, all right, just relax. Don't need to crush it. Just a smooth swing. I'm fighting a slice, so I'm going to aim down the left center. If I pull it 10, 15 yards left, it's still not in the water, but I would have to slice a 4 iron, 50 yards right to be out of bounds. So that takes, the penalty pretty much out of play, and you're talking this through your head. You got to talk this through your head because it helps your mind relax going, hey, it's highly unlikely I end up in trouble here because I'm creating a plan, aiming away from trouble, giving me the best chance of success. I'm playing a shorter club off the tee, but that still gives me a short to mid iron and then a pitching wedge in and a chance at birdie. So you've played this hole in your mind backwards. You've given yourself the best chance of success versus just stepping up, grabbing driver, thinking about something to do in your swing in hopes that it makes the ball go straight. You're more than likely then to hit the ball exactly where you didn't want it to go. Because that's what you're only thinking about is, I don't want it to go here, so let me try this in my swing. You're not thinking about where you want it to start or end. You're not thinking relaxed. You have no plan for the hole. You have no idea. You're just trying to hit it as far as you can go and go from there, which is the worst thing you can do. Because you're now not playing, golf. You're playing golf swing and hit it as hard as you can, which is not going to help you score very well. So we got to create that pre-shot routine where we come up with the plan. You plan that out in your mind going, this gives me the best chance to keep the ball on the golf course. This is the shortest club I can hit here to still give me short clubs into the green and a great chance at birdie or par or worst case bogey, and we move on. So that should be what your routine looks like. Very, very simple. Now, the mind is powerful because even to this day, how many years have I been playing golf? So I've been playing golf for over 32 years. Started playing when I was 3 and love this game. But even to this day, I'm a professional. I've taught 16,000 lessons. I study the swing. I study the mind. I study the body when it comes to fitness and nutrition. And even to this day, I will still have mental lapses. That's what separates the guys you see on TV on Saturday, Sunday versus everybody else is just the mental fortitude. So this isn't going to be easy. This takes practice. So you got to go back to last week's episode of how to practice properly and implement this routine. Implement seeing the golf hole. Playing a few of the hardest holes you play, playing them on the driving range. Grab a couple scorecards. Go, I really struggle with this hole 5. So I'm going to aim here. And, I'm going to hit this club off the tee. It's going to put me here, which is going to leave me this club to the green. And you're just going to simply plot your way around the golf course that way, one step at a time. So you got to practice that. And that's part of that, what 70% of your full swing practice should be, is going through that routine, then relaxing and saying it's going to start here, end here, playing with your typical shape, not the one you want to have, but the one you do have. The one you want to have will come over time as you keep putting in practice on the mechanics. But right now you got to play with the one you do have. So it's going to start here, end here, step up, relax. If it's wiggle the fingers, exhale, 80% effort, middle of the face, go. And you'll be shocked as to how much better you hit the ball, how more solid you hit the ball, how much more you keep the ball in play and give yourself chances at par, which is all we're trying to do here. So hopefully that helps you guys, helps you understand why the golf ball keeps going where you don't want it to. It comes down to pre-shot routine and having a plan for the hole. So, talking more about having a plan for your round of golf, you want to tune in next week on how to stand on the first tee, just simply oozing confidence. We're going to talk about how creating a game plan before you even get to the first tee. We're going to talk about that next week on how to warm up properly before your round to give you that kind of confidence heading into the first tee so you can start playing your most confident golf yet. So stay tuned for next week's episode. Until then, remember to swing easy and take care. We'll talk to y'all soon.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.